Welcome everybody. I wanted to go over the integration with the Camect Hub to some third-party applications. Now, there's some other ones that are on the market. Tonight, we're going to focus on the ISY, and they have a companion device called a Polisy. And we'll go through the setup of that. There's also a Habitat environment. We're going to show how that interconnects with the Camect. And then there's also an Indigo version that is for Mac only. So what I want to focus on today is the Polisy with Universal Devices and how that integrates into Camect. Now, the Polisy is a standalone device. They also have a cloud version. It does require then a monthly fee, a connect fee for that. But this is a standalone device that can run autonomously within your home. The Camect Hub also can run autonomously. And both of those can communicate to each other to run meaningful alerts based on motion that the camera sees. And Camect can then parse that out. So if a particular camera sees a particular item, like maybe a bear or a deer or a person or a dog, you can then have a home automation function happen because of that. You might think, well, why would I need that? Well, here's an example. If it's after 5 o'clock and my Camect system sees a car in the driveway, I would like my lights to come on. Now it might start popping some interest of, okay, I kind of get an idea now how I could utilize this to be able to do things that maybe I hadn't thought of conventionally with cameras. Motion detectors are typically how this was done. You go into an area and it's after dark and the lights turn on. But you don't want the lights turning on just because it saw any motion. You want it to turn on because it saw specific motion. And this is where this integration can really shine. So the first thing is, this is a device that logs into the network. It has its own web server. You log into its IP address. And I'm just going to log into it. Now, I have already added a couple of nodes in here. So the process that that we're going to do, we'll show you exactly what the steps were to be able to create these. Like I had mentioned, I do have a Habitat integration. This actually you can integrate back into this Polisy, and we'll do a separate video on that at another point. So the three components that we need are a Camect Hub. We've got to be able to log into that. We need an ISY, and that is made by Universal Devices. That is universal-devices.com. And a companion device they have called a Polisy, P-O-L-I-S-Y. With those devices, you can create, in essence, a Nodeserver that can run all sorts of things. You can tie, theoretically, if it saw a person, I want my Tesla to start. If I'm outside by the pool, I want my pool heater to turn on. If it's after dark and my camera picks me up by the jacuzzi. So you can kind of use your imagination, and really the sky's no limit. If you can get a device that can be connected to over the network, Camect, by way of its AI, can be able to control that device. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit because I just want to show you there are different systems here. All right, that's the first one. The next thing I want to do is log in to my Camect. All right, so here's the Camect system. Within here, we've got the ability to add cameras. I'm not going to go over all of that detail, But I do want to point out the fact that you do have to have a camera system like this from Camect and have your cameras added to be able to pull that information into the ISY. All right. So we're in the policy. They have a shopping store here. These nodes are free. You can go through and see all different types of things that you can control. Balboa Pool Spa, certain garage door openers, Blue Iris, Camect, Ecobee thermostats, Elk alarm systems, Tesla's in here. There's all sorts of things. Even the Harmony interface, which can do IR commands. So you can walk into a room and have the TV turn on if it's after a certain time. Maybe you got a favorite show that you want to watch. It sees that you walked into the room, automatically turns the TV on for you, and it can set the channel. All right, so the first thing that we'd want to do here is we're going to add the Camect node. Now, I've already added it into the system, and so I'm going to just do another one to show you what it's like, but then I'll go into the Camect node and show you how to set it up. The reason why I did that is I wanted you to be able to see the node right off the bat. So let's say I'm going to do an Ecobee thermostat. I can just click install, because this could be something as well that we want our Camect to control. It sees that I went into a room and I'd like the thermostat to turn on while I'm in the room. And then when it hasn't seen me in a while, I want it to turn off. So we're going to assume I clicked on and installed both the Camect and the Ecobee. Now I go back to Nodeserver and I want to add those servers. And they're going to be queued up here in a list. It's going to put it into slot 5. And these slots are automatically set up. You don't have to choose specifically what slot it's going to go to. It basically means that, hey, you can put about 30 of these node servers that you can run at a time, and it's just the next available node server opening. Then you're going to click submit. So now you can see I have Ecobee. It's in number 5. It says disconnected. We just want to wait a second for it to connect. Now it's connected. This means I can now go in and try to add the information for it. This will be a device that I can use down the line. What I want to do now is go into Camect, because like I had shown, you can install these different node servers, and then you would simply go in to add a node server, and it would show up in the list. So here's my Camect node server. And this is what we need to do to connect to the ISY, which is what's going to allow us to be able to communicate and see our camera motions, and then be able to trigger an event based on that. I want to go to configuration. Okay. I'm going to go down to the bottom. You'll notice there's a little pop-up thing here that tells you some basic information about this. You're going to need to put in your Camect username and password. Now, the username and password are going to be what you would use locally to get into your hub. And maybe you've never done this before, but when you go into your Camect Hub, when you're at home on the network that your hub is on, and you type in local.home.camect.com, you don't type in your email address that you normally would do to authenticate. You type in the prefix of your email address, everything before the @ symbol. So in this case, tophattivo@gmail.com. I would put in tophattivo as my password, and the username will always be admin. Then I am going to put the IP address of my Camect Hub right here. Put that in, and I'm going to click Save Changes. Now, once you've logged into your Camect Hub, if you're not familiar with finding IP addresses and all of that, I'm going to show you here. I'm going into the gear icon on my Camect Hub, and I'm clicking on the I here where it says next to hub name. And this is going to give me the information that I need, where I've got my IP address here, tells me what ports that it's on. Otherwise, you could search your router for that IP address. All right, we're going to go back here. Once you've done that, you want to do a restart. What that's going to do is it's going to go out and connect to it. And now it's going to start pulling the cameras in. And it found 27 different nodes, meaning I've got multiple cameras. Each camera has different channels, like it's looking for people or automobiles, animals. And then within that, there are specific categories within that. So it pulled in 27. Now, something I haven't shown you is the ISY. This is actually the logic controller that is going to do the conditional logic. Once again, this is a web server. To get into it, you download from Universal Devices website a simple file. I'll show you what the file looks like when you run it. It's called start.jnlp. And if you go to Universal Devices website, it's right on the main page. It says My ISY. If you click on it, it'll download this file. And when I run it, it's going to pop up a Finder box. And that Finder box is going to go out and it finds the ISY. You simply click on it and say that you want to log in, and the default login for an ISY is admin, and you can change it. If you're not exposing it outside your house, you can leave it at admin. All right, well, that's it. Now I've got the policy, has the Camect Nodeserver running on it. I have an ISY. I do need to make sure that the IP address of my ISY, and I can do that by clicking on configuration, this local IP address, I need to make sure that it also is set up here in the settings. So under IP address for ISY, put that in, and you're going to put in your whatever your login is for the ISY. All right, now for the fun stuff. And I need to share a new screen with you. So this is the ISY. This is where I clicked on configuration here to get this IP address. I'm in the main tab. And you can see now it has pulled in cameras. And it's giving me a category for each of my cameras. And so I have a camera in the backyard, and the categories that I can look for are animal, human, insect, and vehicle. And then it's going to tell me what is the last one that was true. So this means, hey, it just saw my dog outside. If something else were to have popped up and that was the last thing it saw, that would then take the place of true. I have also cabin. If I'm looking for animals, deer right now is false, meaning it's been a period of time since it did see a deer, but a deer was the last thing that it saw. And then I can also click for human. Right now, same thing. It has seen a human, but it's currently false. We do have a category that pops up around this time of year in case there's a Santa Claus sighting, and that can also be used as an event trigger. I've added a couple of devices also. I have not only these cameras, Ecobee controller. This is what I added in earlier. I haven't authenticated it yet. But I'm going to go into programs and I want to show you how the conditional logic is written now to be able to do something. This is something also where if you you wanted to set up notifications, to turn on devices, to run a myriad of automation functions, this is where it all happens. It uses something called if, then, and else. So if this happens, then I want to go do this. Else is another way of saying otherwise. Well, if this isn't happening, then I'd like to go and do this. So let's go do a simple program. And let's call it dog trigger. Now, you don't have to know how to be a programmer to do this. You do have to know how to select your choices. So the first thing I'm going to do is define what my if is. So if, and I want to say if control of animal backyard is dog, meaning it saw that it was just triggered and it's now true. So I've defined that. Then what do I want to do? Well, then and I can go in and, pick a device, like here's my Philips Hue bridge, and I want to turn my lights on. Okay, and then I simply, whenever you see these little green arrows coming out, it means the program's not saved. You want to go down and click save. And once it's saved, the little arrow will disappear. And that's it. Now, you can do much more detailed programs. So I'll give you an example of some of the things that you could do. Could create another one, and we'll just call this test. So I can say if control of, in this case, driveway camera human, if person is seen and a dog is seen. So I want to know when somebody is walking a dog. Now, you might say, well, why would I want to know that? In my wife's case, she's made friends with everybody who goes out and walks their dog, and she likes to get an alert whenever a dog is seen with a person. I mean, somebody's out walking their dog, and if she can, she's going to go outside and say hi to whoever the dog is. So that's an and. And then I also want to choose for the driveway animal. And you can see I have dog here, but there's a lot of other options that I have. So now it has to see both of these things. Then what do I want to do? Well, in this case, it could just send a notification that those have happened. Now, this is a feature where you probably could do this directly with the Camect Hub. But if you want to add layers onto this where, well, I don't want it to happen all the time. I want to put a schedule in here and to say, well, if time is from sunset to sunrise the next day, now I've added this condition to say, well, it's only going to do this between sunset and sunrise. Then I want to maybe either turn lights on or notify whenever there's a person walking a dog. Maybe if it's just a dog by itself and no person, I want to be notified of that. So some of the simpler ones, Camect does beautifully on its own. But when you want to add other things like third-party integration of other devices, this is a perfect way to do that. Now, a lot of these are different node servers, things that I brought in. I actually created one for the Habitat Hub, which is another application. So I can start seeing things coming back from it. And it's, even though Camect has integration with it directly, I can also integrate back the other direction for other things that Habitat might be controlling. I have a Philips Hue bridge, and these are the different lights within that. Maybe you want a sequence of something that happens. Now, I did an application for my aunt where she has bear on her property, and I teach a home automation class, and this is one of the assignments that I used, where if the camera sees a bear, I want one of the bulbs to turn red and then wait 15 minutes. And then I want it to turn amber and then stay that way for 45 minutes. And while it's counting down, if it sees a bear, then it should go back to red. But if it goes 45 minutes without seeing a bear and it's been amber, then go to green. And it creates a status. So my aunt then, before she walks outside, she can look and see what color the bulb is, and it gives her a current status. If it's red, she'll know to pick up a couple of frying pans and bang them together as she goes outside. So let's talk about what that might look like. We'll call this one bear trigger. So if control, and this one's going to be for the cabin, if control of cabin animal is bear, then and this is where I could set color temperature and brightness. I'm going to keep it simple right now. Okay, then I want to turn it on, and then I can wait a period of time. And then I can set, like I said, color temperature and specific settings for hue. Here are some set ones. So let's say I'm going to change it to coral. And then I want to wait 45 minutes. And I'm going to change it to green. And this one up here, let's go ahead and update that. I just simply clicked update, which changed it. So, you know, here are the different colors. Maybe I can find one that's be tan. Now, while this program's running, if a bear is seen again, because we're going off control, and control means it just saw something, then it will restart the program again. So, and that means that if it's in the middle of the timeout here, but it sees now that there's been activity with the bear, it'll go back to red and it'll keep going. As long as it doesn't see a new activity of the bear, then it'll run through the timeline and it'll stay at green. And it could stay that way for a period of time until it sees the bear again. But it's a simple way to write a program to achieve that. Now, imagine you could do this as well for a parking lot out behind a building where you have employees that go out to their cars, and when it's after dark, if it sees that somebody's been loitering, out there for a while, or it sees that there's a person, then it turns a light on maybe above the door, a red light that says, hey, there's somebody out there. And maybe then the protocol is that employees need to walk out with somebody else in conditions like that. So this is a way also maybe to create a different business model or add to your business model, not just putting cameras up, but also adding a layer of intelligence that can be useful for situations like that, for not only safety, but just peace of mind in general. For somebody going outside at night that have to walk out to their car in a parking lot, you want to know that there hasn't been somebody who's out there maybe hiding. The system would have picked it up and can alert you ahead of time. All right, so I'm going to just briefly go through again the different components. I'm going to share this screen. So the different components. We have the policy. Policy is a standalone web server that can run all different types of, call them nodes. And the node is an identifier that says, hey, here's a device, here's how you communicate with it, here's what it can provide as far as data. And it puts all of those parameters in, and then it populates them into the ISY. And the ISY is what we were just in, where I showed you the programming. So this thing acts kind of as an autonomous cloud server that runs in your home that can manage all of those different products and then push them up to the ISY for integration. Once again, to be able to add a node server, or if you're going to add the Camect node server, you just go into the shopping cart under node server and then node server store, and you go through and just look for the device that you might have in your house that you want. Like this, even Tesla is in here. But Somfy, SolarEdge, Tesla, Total Connect, which is a Universal Electronics application. But you just simply pick one and install it. Just like we did for Camect. And then when you go to the top of the page, then all of the node servers that you have queued up to add, when you click here, they're going to show and you just say add. And now they show up on your dashboard. Now, remember we added the Ecobee one? So inside here, it's going to say, hey, it wants you to restart this because you didn't do any authentication to it. So if I restart that and it says connected, now it says, hey, go to your Ecobee account and sign in. And then I simply can click on it, sign into my Ecobee account. Now, all of that stuff's going to show up in my ISY here. The thermostat, all of that stuff is going to show up, and I'd be able to add other conditions. If I walk into a room and it's early in the morning, meaning maybe I just got up, I want it to automatically turn on my heater to whatever temperature or to a preset setting. So really the sky's the limit here as far as the things that you can integrate and control. All right, everybody, this is sort of the long and short of it. We will do other videos. I did a video on the Habitat or Habitat integration, and we will post that as well. But we look forward to feedback and any other videos you'd like to see on integration partners that are out there that we might be able to help with.